everyone, it's Amy and welcome back to my channel. So we are here working on Foam Stamps 101, the next episode. And the first thing I thought that I would show you is this is the foam stamp storage box that we worked on last week. I covered it with this is just wrapping paper, which is, like the brown paper bags. So you could do this yourself. And then this is one of the dyed papers that we dyed at one of the very first videos when we made our paint pad. And I also have paint all over my hands because I did a paint pad up ready for today that we can use instead of stamp pads. But I got it ready, so I have paint all over my hands. And then these are a couple of the small mini stamps that we did, and I really thought they were cute when I was cutting them out to stick them in my ephemera box. I really just liked them, and they went with what I had here, so I've stuck those on there. And then I believe this was our very first video on how to make flower parts. So I decorated the box like I said that I would, and then all I did was I just put a piece of ribbon right through the front flap and put a couple of beads on it for weight. Sewed a button here on the top with a little button underneath of it so that your string has somewhere to go, or your ribbon. So if you just put that right flat on your box, then it's really hard to try and get whatever you put on there, string, ribbon, or whatever. It's hard to get it wrapped around that button underneath. So if you put a small button underneath when you sew it through and just sew through the holes in both buttons, it just lifts this bigger button up so that you can get underneath of it. It has a place for your string to go. But I thought I would show you how the drawers all worked out. So here's the first drawer. And in the first drawer, I put our leaf stamps and flower part stamps. And what I do is I just put them in there and I stamp them in their spots so that when they come out and I go to put everything away, that I can put them back where they go. Because I kind of like fit them in here till they fit really well. And then I stamp them so that I don't waste space. But you don't want them like laying on top of each other. So you want to make sure that you have them in there nice and flat. And you can do a second layer. And in order to do that, you're just going to cut a piece of cardboard to set on top of your stamps. These are our background stamps in this drawer. And so again, I did it the same way. That way, if anybody else is even over, but when you have a lot of little pieces, even you're not going to remember where they went. And it's so easy to put them away if they're stamped underneath right where they belong. And on the bottom drawer, I do have 2 layers here. So I have all of our mini stamps are here on this shelf. And then what I did was, this is just another piece of a graham cracker box that I cut to fit inside the drawer, just inside. It fits perfectly. And so I cut that to fit inside the drawer so that they would not smush the stamps underneath. They would be flat and they wouldn't get any dents in them. You want to store your foam stamps on something that is flat, and I store them the foam side down so that nothing can press on top and put dents in them and make them look different. So there's our mini stamps. Here are our tags and our tickets. And again, I just stamped those right on where they're going to go. And this one right here, it got lost on my table and I just found it. So it's not stamped yet, so I just set that one. I did put it foam side up so I can remember to stamp it and put it somewhere. I think it will fit nicely right there. So I'll stamp that one in there. So each of these drawers can hold 2 layers. I just kind of take the handles and just fold them down like that. So but you can get 2 layers. You probably could even get a third, but I think 2 is kind of enough. And so there we go. We can have 6 layers in there. And I just went ahead and I put a knot in my ribbon and just stuck it right through to the front. Put these beads on here kind of for weight. And then I just put a piece of, this is actually just paper towel here. Remember how I said about like cleaning your stamps, you don't want to submerge them in water, but you can just have a wet paper towel that you can rub them on when you're done with them. And that's where I actually got this colorful little piece of paper, because I saved that because I really liked the looks of it. It will work good in collage. Don't forget, though, that even your paper towels, they have layers, and you can't glue 2 layers together without gluing between them, because the top layer will eventually just come off. So that is how we can store our stamps, just like that. So now we still have a lot of room in there, and we can make a new box if we make too many stamps. So I'm going to set this aside. And today we're going to make border stamps. So I like to make them in 2 sizes. I like to make them 8.5 inches long, and I like to make them 5.5 inches long. That way, if you're making a journal or no matter what you're working on, if you're working on a regular piece of paper, the 8.5 inches will cover the whole width of the paper. The 5.5 inches will cover, if you fold it in half, it will cover the 11-inch side folded in half, like in a journal. So that's what I like to do. You can make them any size you want. If you work with 12 by 12 paper, if you can get a piece of fun foam that's 12 inches long, you can make a 12-inch one. You seriously actually could cut on a diagonal to get 12 inches if you can't get a piece that's 12 inches, and you can still use the extra area. But also, you could put 2 pieces next to each other. Now, where you put them next to each other, where that line is, you will get a line on your stamp. So just incorporate that, like maybe use 3 4-inch pieces. So there's 2 lines in there. It doesn't look off. Or put the line right in the center. So I have a piece of cardboard here that is just over 5.5 inches. It is 5.5 1/8. Yep. So that's 5 5/8. And so what we're going to do is we are going to cut a piece of fun foam, and I'm going to cut it the width of my ruler. So you can measure it to any width that you want to. But I'm just going to make it easy, I'm going to cut it the width of my ruler. And then I'm going to cut it 5.5 inches, or actually I'll do 5 5/8 to cover that piece of cardboard, and we will glue it on there. Oh, didn't get it right there. There we go. And so now I'm actually just going to take this, I'm going to glue it on here, and then I'm going to cut it off. So I like that, even though my paper is going to be 5.5 inches, if I'm folding the 11.5 or the 11.5, that just that little extra 8 means you don't have to get it exactly on one edge or the other in order for it to like cover your paper. So it's just a little teensy bit, just to kind of give you a little tiny bit of wiggle room. It's got a glob in it. I don't want that under there. And I like to spread it out nice and even. And then I'm just going to stick this right on here. Make sure I don't have glue all over my fingers. And line it up. And then I'm just going to cut it off right there. And so then we will be able to use this for an edge stamp, but I want to put it right now. I'm going to set it underneath a book with some parchment paper on top so that the glue that's over the edges here doesn't get stuck to my book. And there we go. So I'm going to stick it there and let it dry. I had a piece of paper towel here and I don't know what I did with it. Okay, now this can be set aside for another day. And the one thing that I want to say is we're going to use this next week. It was as wide as my ruler. So what I've got here, I'm going to go ahead and make it into a square. So I'm going to cut it as wide as my ruler. There we go. And I'm going to do 2. So that way I know that I have 2 perfect squares. Because next week we are going to need that to be a real square. There we go. So we have 2 squares for next week. We'll set those aside. And then once you glue your fun foam to your cardboard, you're going to put it under a book and you're going to let it dry. Especially when they're so long like this, you really want them to like be stuck to that cardboard prior to trying to cut them out. So I have 2 here. This one I cut kind of wide, and then I cut this out here so that they would fit together. After I did that, I wasn't really thinking, and I rounded these corners. So when they fit together, they won't fit together perfectly because there will be a gap right there. But that's okay. Things happen, and they're still going to be very pretty. So you can leave them plain, or you can use your pen. And remember, we save our dried out roller pens, you know, the ones that have the roller ball on them. Save the dried out ones to use to write on here so that you don't get ink onto your actual project, because if you use the ink in, and this pen is ink, this one is kind of a little stuck. It's really catching. But my other one that I had that was really good, I think somebody threw it away because it was dry. But I think they didn't realize. I think they came in to borrow a pen and went, oh, this one's all dried out. I'll just throw it away. So, but you can either put shapes in them right away, or you can leave them solid so that you can doodle on them on your project that you're working on. You can do a little of both. I kind of like taking the border stamps where they match and sometimes leaving them to where they'll fit together, and you'll have a solid one and you'll have a printed one. So I think for those 2, we'll just kind of leave them like that and see what they look like. And this one, I think I want to try and do a herringbone on. I used to do herringbones by cutting a whole bunch of little strips of the fun foam, and then cutting them on an angle in the middle and putting one up here and one up here to meet each other, and doing that all the way down, like a piece of fun foam here and here, little strips, and it takes a really long time. And I got to thinking, and I thought, why couldn't I just, the reason I did the strip, you know, you do a strip and then you leave a space, and then you do a strip and you leave a space, and it's like, why don't I just draw the herringbone on there? That would be my space, and what's left would be where I was doing all those strips. So that's what we're going to try with this one. I want to try and do a herringbone because I really do like herringbone. And so we'll try that with the big one. And then the little one that we just did, I did the width of my ruler so we could leave it that wide, or you could cut that one in half once it's dry if you wanted to. And if I was going to cut it in half, I would probably use my knife to cut it like this or whatever, because I'm going to kind of go in the middle and then trim this up, because I think that will be the easiest way to do this. Yeah, I think it might be easier to use your knife than to use the scissors, because like even right here, this is a little bit not easy to get around, and I've got the gap. So, and it really, this doesn't have to come off perfectly. It's the shape of your foam that is going to do your stamp. It's not the shape of the cardboard underneath. I do like to kind of do it close so that I can see if I'm trying to line it up together, to see like where the edge of the stamp is, versus leaving a 1/4 of an inch or something stick out, and then not knowing exactly where my foam starts when I'm trying to line them up. So that is why, but you don't have to, especially if it's one that's not going to line up with another one, then you really don't have to have it cut right to the edge. So we'll just get both of these done, and I'll leave this one solid, and we'll just see what it looks like solid. And the thing is, if I don't like the way it looks, then I can go in and I can put a design on it. So there's never anything, you know, you don't know. The most exciting part about doing the foam stamps is seeing what they look like when you stamp them. Because really, you don't know exactly what they're going to look like. You kind of know, you know, once you've been doing them for a while, you kind of know this design kind of looks like this and this design kind of looks like that. But each one is still a little bit different. And some of them, they're almost exactly the same, kind of the same type design. I have favorites. It's like I may have two that look almost exactly the same, but one will be my favorite. So, but now these ones, if we stamp them, will fit together like that, except, and they're going to fit together right to about here, because then I kind of messed with this one right here before I was thinking about the fact that I wanted them to fit together. And see here where I rounded those corners? So that's not going to fit together either, but it's all right. Just do another one if I want them to be perfectly together. And then, you know, you can do as many as you want. And I like to get them ready first. Sometimes I cut them first and then glue them, and sometimes I cut them afterwards. It's, you know, try it both ways and see which one you like the best, because it really is just personal preference as to whether you want to cut them before you make the design in the fun foam and glue it, or if you want to glue the fun foam solidly to the cardboard and cut it afterwards. Totally up to you. And you don't really waste much like doing it this way, because they're still just strips that you're gluing onto your cardboard. So it's not like you're cutting out a circle here and a circle here, and then you've got all this that's glued already to your cardboard and, you know, you may not use. So let's go ahead, and I have a bucket of water here. If you saw the paint pad episode, where the first one where we made the paint pad, remember you don't rinse your paint pads in the sink. So have a bucket, and this only has maybe 1/2 inch of water, if that. So this is where I'm going to rinse my pad out. Then I'll also dye some papers with that water later. So, and I have a wet paper towel, just barely damp. I just sprayed it with some water, that I can rub my stamps on afterwards to clean them off. And then here is our paint pad. And the paint pad it's just a drying mat, a dish drying mat. It's got terry cloth and then just a little bit of foam in there, and then terry cloth again. So you just go ahead and you put some, this is just regular craft paint, and I just squeeze some on there, smush it in. First you want this wet. Take your foam pad, get it wet, squeeze it out really well, but that helps it to stay damp for your stamping and not dry out. It also doesn't suck up all of your paint really bad, and it makes it like a much smoother transfer to your stamps. So get it wet, squeeze it out, and then put some paint on there, spread it out. I've got 3 colors here. If I want just one color, I can go this way. If I want all 3 colors, I can go this way. So that's the one thing I like about leaving them long, because I do like to kind of have my my stamps blend together to make them kind of look a little like variegated. So this is my paint pad. And that is how I made it. So I'm just going to move this over to the edge. And we're going to see how these work. Now, just like always, we're going to want to put handles on our stamps so that we aren't trying to stamp them without having something to hang on to. I like to put these about around 1/3 of the way in from each end, so that you're kind of like, you have good pressure all the way. And again, that's all total preference. You could even put if you wanted to, you could put more than 2 on there, and so that you can like maybe press in one area and then press in a different area. I find that 2 seem to work good. I just don't want that masking tape sticking out where it could touch my paint and then get on my project. So we're gonna just, there's one that's already ready to go, but let's get them all ready to go, and then we'll see. If I put this one this way, I won't have to cut it off. And we'll be able to see what they look like. So these are great for like doing edging. You can use it on cards. You can use it on journals. Even on, like, if you're just doing a piece of collage art or something, just to stamp randomly if you want. Or just along the edge of your collage. So it's not just for junk journals or regular journals. It's for anything that you may want to put an edge on. You know, the original, like, they made edge stamps, and then they did like edge die cuts, and they kind of did that for card making, really, when they started. And then, you know, if you're making any kind of a journal of your own, or even if it's a store-bought journal or one you bought from an artist somewhere, if you're working on a journal, it's fun to put a little design down the edge of the page. And this solid one that, oh, we should really do that first, shouldn't we? So that when we're stamping, we can stamp all at the same time. So let's just really quick do the herringbone on here. And let me see. I am just going to, I need to see where the center is here. Alrighty, so that one is 5/8. So that would be 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It's not quite 5/8. 2. So 3/8 is the center. If I just move it off just a little bit, come down here. Thinking this is not quite 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5. Oh, I don't know. We're going to say the center's right there. My brain is just not working today. So this is going to be my center. I don't really want to push down on this. I just want to kind of have a line to know where to go to. So I just want to kind of do like that. Now, I'm going to go from that center point out on an angle. And you're going to want to push down. Make sure that you leave more room than you think, because it doesn't just push down where that line is. It rounds down. So that line will be wider than what you can see. So make your herringbone a little bit wider than you think you want it, and it will probably be exactly what you're thinking you want. So because this is not going to be that wide, I don't believe, between, like, even if you look, this is wider than that one. But by the time that I put that in there, they're pretty much about the same. And I don't know if, maybe we'll do like half of this, so that you don't have to sit and watch the whole thing. But we'll know if it works or not, or if you really should just cut out little bits of fun foam and glue them on here. But I'm thinking this will work. Now the part that's going to make the design is going to be the part that's not dark. The herringbone will be the part that's white. That's where the color will stick. That's your actual stamp part. All right, I think we'll do one more, and then I'll go up to do the other side. Let's see. If I kind of do it like this. And again, this pen is going to show up more than likely. It can, now it can show up when you use your inks, because your inks will pull that, your ink pads will pull this ink out of the fun foam for a little while. And then, you know, it will be, this ink will be gone off of your stamp and it won't show up anymore. But that's why we use the pens that are out of ink, because they'll make a dent without leaving the ink on your stamp that's going to come off on your project. Sometimes it looks kind of cool, but so if you have something that will kind of roll across your stamp, then that's really the best to use. Last one here. And there we go. So we're going to see how that looks and see if that looks like a good herringbone or not. Then we'll just get some paper. We just have some scrap paper here. And we'll try this one first because I'm really curious to see what it looks like. Let's just do it. Let's do this one just in a solid color. Might be easier to see. We'll just put that on the edge of our paper, whatever we're making. And of course, really, just because they're called border stamps doesn't mean they have to go on the border. They can go right down the center of your page if you want to. And if you use your handles, instead of just like holding on to this the way I did and sticking your fingers in there, and there we go. It's okay. It's not as, and if it was the whole length, it would probably be better. Not as much of a herringbone as I thought, because the center doesn't get quite the point that I like to see. But still, it's cool. I will finish this thing more than likely. I'll finish the whole thing because it's just different. It's not bad. It's not what I kind of thought it would look like. So let's look at here's our solid one. And this one we will use all of the colors. I use my handles, and I kind of like to kind of go up and down a little bit, and that where the two colors come together, it kind of blends it together a little bit. So let's make sure we've got color on the whole thing. You can look to make sure. Looks pretty good. And we'll just put this one right here. So just give it a smooth, give that paint a little bit of time to come off your stamp. And that looks pretty good. Part of it is where I didn't move it around enough, so wherever it didn't get ink or paint, you can see the white between. I also did spray this with some water, because with a little bit of water on the top after I did it, because I wasn't really ready to do the video yet. And so that may be, might be a little more watered down than normal. But I think it was more that I just didn't really pay attention to get the paint everywhere. So let's try this again. And also it has to do with the texture on the drying mat also. And that's why if you have one that's very textured, some of them come with squares. Those squares do show up on your stamps, although that is a really cool look. So if that's all you can get is the one with the squares, that's totally okay. And there we go. Still has a little of the texture from the background. And let's see about, let's just see what the second, they call this a ghost print. Not too much. And the thing is that even the fun foam looks pretty cool when you're done. So you can always use that for something else if you wanted to, if you didn't want to use it for a stamp. So I just like to wipe them off like this. Because of what they're made out of, we can't submerge them in water, but it doesn't hurt to wipe them off a little bit. Plus, it does give you some really cool paper towels. So let's see what this one looks like. And with this one, I just drew some swirls. They don't have to match. I tend to do everything kind of matchy-matchy. But they don't need to. You can just do a different doodle all the way down the whole thing. And that's the whole fun part about this, is you can have so many different border stamps and edge stamps and, you know, little shape stamps, because you can make them in so many different patterns. You can have the same style or different styles, like straight edges, curvy edges, and then just go ahead and make sure that you can see this one. I'm going to do it next to this one. Kind of fit them together, even though we can't see that one very well because I didn't want to do it on top of that one. But yeah, you can have so many different designs and shapes and thicknesses. You can have wide ones and thin ones. So the whole point about making your own stamps is they're yours for one thing. Nobody else is going to have one exactly like it. And you can have tons of them without going out and spending a ton of money. Look at that. To me, that is awesome. I really like the way that that looks. And look at how it kind of fits together there. Now I'm gonna do it here. And let me see. This one is opposite, and I think I want to keep it that way. So I'm gonna go like this, do it the same. I could flip this around. If I wanted it to be purple all the way across, then I would need to turn it around and do the purple at the other end so that when I stamped it down, it would match. But I do kind of like that where the two sides are different colors and fit together. And again, just make sure that we get ink, paint everywhere. And I do spray these with a little water, put the top back on it, and stick it in a plastic Ziploc baggie if I'm going to use it again later on. Okay, let's match this up. See how it looks with the darker, both of them being darker. I really like this one a lot. I think that to me, these look like waves. If you're going to do something that's going to be like underwater, I love this pattern with the swirls and with and you could even do it kind of like how waves go like this. You can do that with your fun foam. And there we go with the dark sea. Now that, I really, really like that. And I probably, now you can do these right in your journal or right on your card or you can do them on paper and then cut them out and use what you want from them. Now on this one, I very possibly would cut both of these together and use it just like that because I really like that. You know, and then this one, obviously, I could cut it straight across here, so it'd be straight on both sides and it would have this little bit of color, but more than likely I would cut this one out like this and then glue that onto a project, and this one too. And even this one, I'll cut this out just to here, and then I will throw this in my little collage box. This is the one that, remember, we did all of the, like we did the tickets and the label stamps and everything, and I cut those out. And then here are some of the little mini stamps that we did, and I had stamped those to see what they look like, so I cut those out, and I will probably cut this one out and stick it right in this box, because these are great to just have around when you're trying to do something quick. If you're trying to make a quick card or something, you know, you throw a background on there, put a couple little focal points, and you know, it really is pretty cool. So this was a very easy one this week. And next week will be a little bit more detailed, but next week is going to be awesome. I really love next week's project, and because there's so many different things that you can do with it. So, but there we go. That's what they look like. I think that they turned out really well. And then I'll make the little 5-inch ones. Probably I will do a pattern like this, and I don't know that I'll do the herringbone. I think I will finish this one, but I don't think I'll do a 5-inch one like this. I think that I may cut a piece of cardboard and literally cut a bunch of little foam pieces and glue it to the cardboard. It just does look more like a herringbone. Gets a much sharper point on it. So, but there we go. Thank you very much for stopping by. I hope that you're enjoying this series. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. That's what I'm here for. And foam stamps, they're limitless. So try them, play with them, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. And if you like it, great. And if you don't like it, you can probably turn it into a different stamp, or they're so cheap. These are all of my cutoffs, and they're still here because these cutoffs will make more stamps, little background stamps, or if I'm going to cut little bits for a herringbone, I can use all of those little pieces. So this is a project where you really can use pretty much everything that you have. You don't need to throw much of any of it away. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate you. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.